Okay, we're going live again. Let's see. Hello, this is Thinking Data, and we're picking this up again today. Technical difficulties yesterday. If anybody watched it yesterday, it was an awful mess. So actually, I need to do one more thing. Let's go to YouTube. All right, let's see. All right, okay, and all right, so I'm through with that. Let's come over here and we'll get started with the presentation. Okay, so one more thing before I begin. Let's go up here and okay, so it's incrementing. So, all right, well, we're going to have a demo today where we're going to build a database table, and what we're going to do is we're going to pull an alias on this demo folder. If you've read my summary, then I don't work with production itself. I work with a copy of production. And these folders right here, from here on down, and I have 3 columns of these. These represent the directories and folders I work with every day. And so, being that this is, Linux is not my normal system, that's, this kind of represents that. I mean, I think I have something like 136 entries at work. I work on a Windows system, but not to say that I can't get around on Linux because I've been using it since 2007. So, and I've been building a lot of machines. So, let's see. So we're going to choose the demo there. We're going to pull an alias. Okay. And we have a breadcrumb trail here too. I loaded that in one of the things I like to do, and this is beyond the scope of this particular demonstration. But if I get lost here, this is the folder here is essentially deep 6. So if I wish to come back here, then I can double click on that and I can get back here. So that's kind of nice. This is really a throwaway directory. I use a GUID and I kind of parse that apart to make the path. So let's get, this is the beginning of this web page B. And that's going to call the help here. Let's go into the helper first. This is just setting the GFN, the font. Let's go ahead and make this 15. We're gonna source that, and then this is the website bls.gov. That's the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and so without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm gonna have one here. Let's say okay. So this should be a little bit more presentable to you. We're gonna go ahead and open up a terminal here and get another version of Gvim going. I have a bad habit of saying Vim, but we're also going to do source. We're going to do a source helper because that was the first. Okay, so now we're all ready to go. So we're going to come back here, and this is kind of a recipe that I'm using to show this demonstration. I've made notes along the way. And so we already sourced helper.vim. This demo consists of downloading government data off of a website and placing it into a SQLite database. This is a simulation, actual day-to-day IT task a Vimmer might perform. Although simulations try to approach real-world conditions, the deviations will still exist. This will be used as an example, and here's the here's the URL. Let's go out here to the URL and take a look at this so we can appreciate this. We're going to start Yandex. This is similar to Firefox. I think Firefox actually does this for Yandex. So this is the government website in question, and what we're doing here is we're wanting the price information. We're interested in the text stuff. We're not interested in the PDF stuff. You know, it's kind of hard to parse through PDF. With Vim, we generally like to work with text. So let's go back here. So we're going to view the source. So let's get rid of this other stuff here. So we're going to do a view source, which you can do that, and we're going to copy this. Now I've already placed this, you know, being that this is a demonstration, I've already placed that here, links A, and that's the same as link B. When you're doing destructive editing, you generally want to do things incrementally. There are times when you'll need to backtrack and pick up with it. Let's see. I don't know what that was, but should have been open with Gvim. Okay, so let's put the helper on it so that we can look at that. All right. Oh. So let's go back here to the recipe. So we're going to look at text. Let's do a reconnaissance first. That's part of the way we do stuff. We're deleting all text lines, but it's really more important for the audience to be able to see the pattern. See, it's fine. We're looking for the text, and there are many types of text. If we do a %G not only for the text values, and then we delete all the lines. You know, this is a good way to do reconnaissance. That's for all lines. Do a global command. When it does not, that bang sign is when it does not contain this string in the middle here, which is txt. Delete the line. So that's a good way. And we can see here looking at the text, because we saw the text on the web page itself. So we're looking, and this is what we found on the text, but it's really these files we're looking for. So, and these all have ahrefs. If you've worked with HTML any, then that should be kind of apparent. So we're gonna go back here, and actually we did just this. You'll notice that this is a really dangerous step, and that's why you always work with copies of production rather than production itself. And because we did pull an alias, this is a very safe way to work with programs and data. I generally treat programs as data whenever I can. That's just my normal way of doing things. But you know, I can literally trash the whole directory, and it doesn't matter because I can always pull another copy. You know, I'm just out, you know, wasted time. But so we're looking for the pattern ahref, and so we're gonna shave down the listing here. And before we go any further, let's do an incremental save. I like to do what's called a committed save. If we go out here to Dolphin, then let's sort by. Does this not have it? Okay. So we have links B, okay, and that's not lining up with that one. That's not Vim's problem. That's the Dolphin. And so I put a date time stamp on it, and this is so that it, you know, it's good practice to make frequent saves. I've never really been a big believer in undo or trusting it. I mean, it's like Murphy's Law. It inevitably fails you when you need it the most. So we're gonna do some substitutions here first, and we're gonna come over here to the links. We're gonna paste this on the command line. This is command mode, and percent is all lines. Do a substitution. Any character 0 to many up until ahref equals, and then the double quotes. What we're going to do is we're just going to delete that. So that's going to essentially take off we're creating our list right here. So that's taking that off. So, and we'll do another incremental save. We'll come back over here. And then we're going to do everywhere on the line the double quote and after. We don't need all that trash. So, let's just get rid of it, because we're making a list, and a list needs to be nice and clean when it's all said and done. So this is what we're doing here. We'll make an incremental save. If you notice, we've got, this is looking like something we can possibly download. Let's continue on with the lesson. The website needs to be prefixed to all the lines, since the website addresses we wish to prefix it in such a way that the string itself needs no escape for the regex characters. Yeah, that's one of the things about Vim is that if you do use a regular expression, you as one of the characters, you must escape it. The website root is this right here. So we had when we did our helper, let's see, here it is. We put it in register A. Let me go back. I had a bunch of stuff. Let me go to register A. So this is what we're going to prefix all these lines up here is in register A. So we loaded that previously. So and we're getting down here, and our method, we're going to prepend register A into it. So what this is for all lines, that's 30%. We're going to execute the normal command on each line, and what we're saying is we're going to the 0 position of the line, to the very leftmost, and in register A, that's the double quote A, we're going to paste it before everything else there. So watch the birdie, and there we go. So that's that. Okay, again, perusing our rendered web page, it can be observed that we only have web addresses. There are no actions to these web addresses. These files need to be downloaded so that they might be put together. Let's first make these solid web addresses and then render these lines to pull the data down. Okay, so, and we sure enough see that there's no actions here. So the first one we're going to do is we're going to do the prefix, and there's really not a particular reason why we're doing the prefix before the suffix. That's a lot of this stuff. I prefer to go left to right, but you don't necessarily have to. So this is our prefix. We'll make an incremental save. All right. And then we're going to, the suffix is just a single tick. You can't assume that the web links are necessarily clean. So, there's no reason to take a chance. So we're going to put a closing tick mark on it, and we're going to incrementally save it. All right. And then the last, this will be kind of the coup de grace before we pull down the web information, is we're going to put an empty line on there, and we can do that with a Vim command. what I'm basically doing is the $S is on the last line, substitute the end of the line for a carriage return. So that's not really a biggie, but I mean, and this entire presentation here, I mean, I can run this from start to end. This, it is a valid Vim script, and it will run from top. But we're doing that. So now we're ready to pull down our data. So let's copy these lines. Okay, that one's taken. So let's open up another terminal. Okay, and we're gonna shift. And yeah, I could have written a shell script. I mean, it's 6.5 dozen or the others. I'm just plain lazy, so I don't want to do a shell script. Okay, so we're pulling down the raw government data that we got a hold of off the web page. All right, and we can go back out here to the and we can look at this, and that concludes the web page, the first part of this. Now we're going to move on to web C. Let's see, web C. Okay, and we got ahead of ourselves. This one we're actually through with this file here. We are going to need an empty Vim version. We'll say source helper. That's getting the correct font in addition to everything else. So now we're ready to start the second one. Let's see, we've already sourced the helper. This is part 2 of the demo. This demo configures the downloaded files for the gathering. The gathering is we have the data in very many different files, all these text files. So we're going to gather them into one place. So that's what we're doing there. So this demo configures the downloaded files for the gathering. It's a good idea if you commonly change all files in a directory. You have a setup script, and this is a very dangerous operation. That's why I call it this destructive editing, because it is so dangerous. So you always want to make sure you're in working with a copy of production instead of production itself. These operations should be done in a throwaway directory, which is what we're working in. So without any further ado, this is one of my canned scripts that I run. Let's go. Let's take the mystery out, do a GF, and go explore the file. And this is setting us up for operations against all files in the directory. That's what this one does. And we have some generic. This is for the argdo. So I generally use I for a counter or a gathering place, depending on the context. This is just informational, telling me that register C is going to have the gathering command, which is argdo. The normal command, GG, is go to the top. Capital V is select the whole line, and then capital G is go to the bottom, and then you select it into I, and notice the capital I, and then you yank that. So what this is doing is going and yanking all the lines out of each of the files. Okay, and if we should have any changes, or if we change any of the files, just go ahead and write that all out there. This is a throwaway directory, so we're going to be doing writes. And then set no more is don't bug me if you got a gazillion operations. Just tell me at the end. And then this is by default, this operates off of all the files, but we're going to restrict that because we only want to operate off the text files. Okay. The script operates by default on all files in the current directory. No subdirectories, args, just a single star. we're going to confine the operations to only the text files. In addition, we need a dummy file to act as a backdoor to the operations applied to all files on the list. I know I work with Windows a lot with Vim and Gvim, and in particular the Cygwin version and the Windows version, they're guilty of, they'll do changes in all the files on the argdo list except the very last one. So I put a dummy file in there, an empty file, to kind of as a workaround to that. It's no biggie. You work with this stuff, you understand how it works. I mean, life's good. So it's unknown where this Vim behavior extends to the Linux Vim builds. I have not tested that out. But anyway, let's copy we're going to touch and we're naming it zz.zzz because it's on any list, it's got to come up, be listed last. So we're going to touch this. Yeah. Okay. And all right, so we've got that. I kind of left that out a step there. Now we're going to set the arguments, which we're going to include all the z's, and then we're going to include this dummy file. So let's do this. Okay, so we're lined up with the very first one. You'll notice that we have prices out here that we're very interested in. We're going to put this stuff in a database. So this is the time to peruse some of the text files. There seems to be a pattern common to every text file. We should only care about the lines with the price data. The non-price lines should be discarded because the ultimate destination is a table in the database. A common regex for the lines we want is the following. Although there are other regexes that might exclusively match these lines, we only need one that will work. In our case, this one. This is not, pretty sure this is not the only one, but this is the army we have, and so let's come here and do a reconnaissance on this, and let the viewer see what we're matching with these. Let's set it to no wrap. So you can, okay, so these are the prices that we're looking at, and so that's that right there. So this is our argdo command. We're gonna delete everything else but the price lines. So we're gonna come over here and we're gonna paste this into Vim. Okay, and you'll notice that we end up on the dummy file, which is quite okay. Now you don't have to do this, but I pretty much like a visual when I do this stuff, and I mean there's no harm in it. So I'm kind of resetting that. We were again perusing through the various text files. One of the observations is that there is very detailed information we want, and then there are summary items that contain totals. It appears that the non-summary lines have at least 4 spaces at the beginning of the line. Keep these lines and discard the rest. So let's before we do this, let's go ahead and recon one of these files, and probably the one we're looking at will suffice. So maybe not. Let's go to another tab. So we're doing LVIM to go through the files. LW for load records. And okay, so this is what we're talking about here. We really don't want these items here. We only want stuff. Yeah, I mean this would make our numbers off if we grab the summary and the total line. So that's what we're talking about here. So we're gonna delete everything but the actual price line. So, and what we're doing, I refer to this as cleaning up our list. So we'll again paste this on here for all files in the argument list. %G not, which is all lines not containing the string we're going to delete. So that's going to do that on all files in the list. Okay. And again, we're at the ZZ file. Let's we'll reset this so that now we see an empty file. We're going to get to that next. If we look through the text files, years 1987 through 1996 have no lines. Okay. And we can tell this here by looking at Dolphin. I mean, we could open these up too, but 0 bytes is generally an indicator that we don't have any lines. So I think we can safely continue on. Okay. If years have no lines. In real world examples, these outliers end up having to be worked separately than the other text files. Yeah, that's not uncommon, by the way. The more you have to do separate threads of work to get your data into a usable format, that's called dirt in the list, or the more work you have to do, the more dirt or dirty the list is. So yeah, all lists are pretty relatively clean. I mean, unless you come straight from a database or something. If you're looking at unformatted text, it's all going to be dirty to a certain extent. So that's kind of what I mean by that. For right now, for this demonstration, we're going to disregard these outliers. In the real world, you'd have to go resolve those in a lot of cases. So let's trim the spaces from the beginning and end of the lines. Is there any reason why I'm starting from the left instead of the right? Not really, but we're going to do that here. So our argdo command, we're going to paste this in here, and from all the beginnings of the line, we're going to trim off those spaces. We're going to go across all the text files to do that. Okay. And then we have another one here. We're going to trim the spaces off the rear, I guess the ending of each line. And the GE, you'll notice we're starting with an empty line, and the E is on here so that it doesn't give us a bunch of messages, You can't find it, and that's cool, which is what we want. Okay, now this is the time we're going to scoop up these files text, but first we must place the year for each file. And what it's talking about here is these price indexes. The year is given in the file name and not inside the file. So we've got to, since we are creating a database. Actually, let's create the database right now without any further ado. Touch something, we'll just call it something.db. It's the SQLite database. And we'll right click and open with SQLite man for manager. Okay, and so we don't have any tables, and that's quite okay. We're going to create the price index here. So with Vim, we see this is our table. Actually, I took this and I prettied it up with Vim. What else would I use? So I'll take that, and we're going to go back to SQLite man and paste this in there. and we're going to select it, and we're going to create the table. And so all right, tables, well, okay. Did I not create the table? Let me see. Let's see. Oh, okay, there it is. All right, I pushed the wrong button. Okay, I've been using this SQLite, man, for maybe about 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, mainly for this demo. I typically work for SQL Server, so. But it, you know, a database operation is a database operation, as you can see. So we've created the table here. And as long as we're over here, let's take a look at our template, because this is going to be, this is kind of, I call it a template because I put some representative strings out here to represent what we're going to replace into here. And Vim editing is a lot of ways like algebra, where you can have substitution of values, and it's very much encouraged that you have those. It can hopefully simplify things, because as you're doing this stuff, you need to replace and get rid of a bad string right now. And it's good to have a placeholder. You don't know what you're going to put there yet. You haven't gotten to that, but you know it's not going to remain the same. So we're going ahead and doing that, and that's what's happened in this case here. Now, one of the things you'll notice here in the way I do database stuff is that I always cast or convert a text variable into the destination data type. And I do this primarily because I cast it, or because if we have, it kind of prevents against SQL injection attacks. You know, you can and do run into issues like that. I cast it as a way of making the data safe. I mean, as far as runtime, it's pretty negligible doing the cast, you know, of text. I mean, yeah, I could probably get a counter and find some real world differences, but unless, you know, if you don't work at a bank or something that you're doing 2 trillion accounts a day, then it's probably not going to be that big a deal. So, and that's what we have here. So let's get out of this. Okay, so we're coming back to our example here. So this was the last thing we did. We cleaned up the spaces, just kind of a recap, and let's reset this arguments list so that we can hopefully, let's see, well, that one doesn't work. No, it works, but I mean, so we need to scoop up these files text, but first we must place the year for each in each file. Okay, so we alluded that earlier, and this is the command that's going to do that. So we're going to paste this here, and we're going to talk about it for a moment. argdo across all files on the argument list. Whenever we see a begin of line, that's that caret, that's for all lines. We're going to put a tab, and then we're going to do a % normal, and we're going to go to % normal is run the normal command on each line, or 0 for go to the beginning of the line, and then in register %, which is the name of the file, we're going to paste it before the tab we just put out there. So let's do that right now. Okay, so we'll go back to the discussion here. We don't need the .txt of the file name, which that's, if we look here, we can actually get rid of that one. That's a little bit dirty, but I mean, it's no biggie. If that's the biggest thing you got to deal with, then yeah, so be it. We don't need the .txt, the file name. Let's remove it, because we did, when we appended when we prepended the file name, we did the .txt. So let's remove that out of there. Okay, and then the next line is we're going to combine. This is the gathering phase. We're going to gather these. So let's gather all these records in the different files. So we're going to come back over here. And what this is doing on each file, the argdo, this is going to be, you're going to probably memorize it before this is done. We're going to do the normal command. GG, capital VG, that's all lines, select all lines from the beginning to the end of the file. And in register I, we're going to yank them. Now, if you'll recall when we first ran the helper, we set the I to single ticks, empty string. So it's got room enough to contain all of it. So we're going to hit enter and gather all these together. And before we process, we're going to go back to see if I have any notes to now save it to a new file. So we're going to call it master records file underscore dat. Hit the enter. So we're going to tab E. We're going to create a new tab. All right. And then we're going to do double quotes I, because we sorted it from register I, and we're going to paste it. So now this is when you're working with data, this is a save point on this. Generally I hit I incrementally say I do what's called a committed save, so that if we ever have to backtrack, we have another step to backtrack to. And so we're going to remove any blank lines and stub lines. So we're going to remove the blank lines first, which if you match the regular expression for the begin and end of a line together and delete those with the G command. G is all line. G operates on those particular lines. D is delete. So let's delete those lines. And we can make another save. And now we're going to take all those lines that have dangling tabs. That's that \T there. So we're going to take out the tabs that end in a line, because what that means is let's find these lines. I want to give you a visual before I actually do it. So let's come over here and copy this string. Now on Vim, if you hit the / or the question, now we're here, and you can, a lot of people don't realize, but you can actually paste a string into here, and we're going to paste this, what we had. Okay, so that's a real flexibility with Vim, is that you have that capability. Also, if as long as I'm here, if you hit the /, let's say that you want to find the first character. So that's let's say A to Z. Oh, okay, I'm bad. All right, there we go. And let's see, do we have a number 0 to 9? No. Okay. So see how you can backspace. You have previous. And that's kind of the way you can build out your regular string, your regular expression. If you're a novice with regular expression, I would build it incrementally. You have to set up incremental search to do that, but that's a good way to get up to speed on regular expressions if you're kind of weak on that stuff. So we're going to come back here, and we're going to grab the line, which we're going to do. So we're going to clean up the rest of these lines here. So let's hit escape. And since we're we're wanting to save this one, so let's save it back to the original name. So this is kind of the master name that we had chosen. So this concludes the demo file number 2. We got one more to go. All right, so let's go to WebD, which is the last one here. All right. Oh. And you have completion if you hit the tab key. It's like with the rest of Linux utilities, you do have completion. So, so what we're going to do is we're going to start with no more. If you want to get the messages once and not every page, then you set the no more. That's always a good thing. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to clean. This is part 3 of the demo. This demo configures the gathered data and makes the insert statements. Please note that there is no inherent order in the following steps. In a perfect world, there would be no single ticks inside SQL statements, but you know, that account manager keeps insisting on this stuff. So, you know, let's just accommodate it. And so we come over here to the master records. And actually, let's close this one out and start again. Master, let's see where's that master, okay. Open with Vim. That's so I don't have to deal with that other stuff in there. Okay. Well, all right, so now we can see it. So what we're going to do is we're going to look for the single ticks, and let's do a reconnaissance here. Give you a visual. Okay, all sorts of things. So we're going to clean that stuff up. And what we're doing here is we're going to replace 1 tick with 2 ticks. That's what those ampersands are for, is whatever the return match string is. We're going to put it there, and since we have ampersand is give it to me double. So watch the birdie. And there we go. We can make an incremental save at this point. All right. Let's begin with the prefix of the record. And the prefix is the caret. That tells us that on the beginning of the line, this is what you do with a list. Generally, is you do a prefix and a suffix. Sometimes you, in this case, is you build out the individual columns. So, but we're going to start with the prefix first. No particular reason why. It doesn't really matter in most cases. But we're going to set a prefix there. Okay. Insert or ignore, so that's part of it. We'll do an incremental save. And then, so that, do you remember that the tab we created on each row, actually I don't remember it. Well, actually I do. Maybe you remember it. But we have a tab there. Let's look for the tab. Let's you know, whenever in doubt, do a data reconnaissance. Okay, there's the tabs that it's talking about. I did not remember it, but you know, Vim can help refresh our memory. So, so we're going to take this, and this is part of our columns we're going to deal with. What we're doing is we're buttressing. We're taking this span of text. We're placing with this right here to build out another column, because we are inserting into a database. So, okay, and we'll do an incremental save there. Now we move on to the third column. You will note by examining what will be the third column that a unique string exists, 2 or more periods, and ending the column with 0 to multiple spaces. Since a period is a regular expression, it must be escaped before use in search and replace. Okay. So let's get a visual on the column that we're talking about. We'll copy this right here. and we'll come over here to master record. Okay, so that's the area within our buffer that we're concerned with. So now that we have a visual, let's go ahead and go back and get the command itself to do the work. And we're just finishing out another column here. We're not through yet, but we're getting there. Okay. So another column has been dealt with. For the final column, please notice that there are at least 2 spaces and often many more spaces. Okay. So let's get a visual first. I like getting visuals. This is kind of a back and forth iterative kind of process. And you know, it's helpful to save frequently in case you got to backtrack. But that's what we're talking about. This is going to end this column, and it's going to open up and begin this column. Okay, so that's what we're doing. We're going from left to right. So let's pick this up. Okay, we did another incremental save. Last but not least is the suffix for each record. That font is not doing well, but anyway, it's cosmetic. Let's see. For the end of the line, put a closing tick and finish it out. So. Incremental save. I have it on the push button, so I mean it really goes fast. Now a complete insert statement has been completed for each row. It's foolhardy to assume each row will readily go into the database. It's time to number and differentiate the different rows while we're at it. Let's make sure that a individual, it should be an individual, a individual error do not prevent the good inserts into the table. Okay. So what we're doing is we're adding lines the Vim way. Okay. And before we set this off into motion, what we're doing is for all lines, you know, this is the wildcard, the period, and 0 or many characters. We don't care. Whatever's there. It's going to land in it's going to render to the ampersand. So we're going to put this statement in here. And notice we have a placeholder of 6x's. That's actually going to be a counter that we're going to do here in a moment. But you know, that's a placeholder. Like algebra, we have placeholders. We're not doing anything with this now, but we will, so we're setting it up for that. At the end of the line, we have a semicolon, and then we have a carriage return. That's at \r, and then the line that we originally matched, put that after that. So you want the select statement first, and then the actual operation to be done. So hit enter. Okay, and we're going to notice that, you know, wildcards is kind of ugly there. So let's search on a dummy string. Okay, so we've come back to sanity. And let's go to WebD. Okay. Please note that I have chosen the x's to represent the actual number. Let's number the statements first, but first we have to initialize a counter. We're going to use register I. You can use any register really. That's a alphabetic register. I go with I because, you know, that's the way I was taught in school. You know, the instructor used I, and you know, I've gotten kind of used to it, so I'm using I. I think in Fortran, IJK were designated integers by default. Anyway, so we're resetting the counter there. So We're going to use the power of G to affect the numbering. Time to give a shout out to Vim Tips Wiki for instructing me on how to use this. We'll deviate and go over here briefly. We'll use Yandex. Okay, and this is where I first learned the power of G, and a powerful G it is, I might add. So, okay, I think of this form of G as a two-stage command. The G part chooses the lines, and the execute part specify what is to be done at that line. Now, it should not be a misconception. You can operate outside the line, but your starting point is chosen to be on that line, with G. So, all right. So I will have to re-specify the control characters. Okay. This is where we're gonna come over here, and we're gonna let's incrementally save. I can't remember whether I did it or not, but it doesn't matter. And so I'm making a different tab. So we're going to go here to WebD. WebD, okay. All right. So we're going to select this and go to the dollar to the end of the line. And we're going to put this into register A. Okay. So we're coming here and we're going to do command line Control R, because we're going to paste from a register A. And we have not everything came back the way it should. Let's go back here. That should be Control RI. What it did instead was it went ahead and took the, let's see. Okay, let's see. Okay. Okay, that's what I was. All right. Okay. Okay. We had. Make sure I have it zeroed here. Okay. All right. So let's come over here. Control R. I. Let's see. Oh. Control R A. Okay, that looks to be more like it. So, all right. So that's Control Q is to quote a special characters, and we're doing Control R and I. Okay, so that's what it's talking about. So what this is doing here is every line where we see these 6 X's, we're going to execute this following line. We're going to increment the counter first, because if you don't do it first, you forget to do it. So I'm adding 1 to the counter, and then this is a pipe symbol, meaning that we're stacking more than one command on the same line. In this case, it's a normal. Now, my experience is if you're going to do a normal as part of an execute command, it needs to be last, because it really doesn't behave well if it's not last. I've never found that to be the case. But anyway, we're doing a substitute, and it's good practice to put colons there to indicate a start of a command. You don't have to in all cases, but there are times when it will hang you up if you do not. And the period means the current line. We're going to do a substitute, and we're going to substitute the X's for the contents of register I. And we're going to do a G for global. And this is a carriage return. That's that caret M is a carriage return. So after we do this, we tell the execute to hit a carriage return to complete the command. So let's hit enter. Okay. So it built our lines here. Let's see, D. All right. I think that means that we are done. So we'll increment, then we'll save back to the master. All right. So let's go over here to the database, which we still have open. And let's select all of these. This is kind of weird that you got to select it to do it. So let's run these. And so far, I don't see any errors. You know, when you're dealing with unformatted text, you will see errors. I mean, that's part of having dirty data, and you really can't get around that. You try for the case where you have the majority of data that's going in there, and then you take care of the outliers later. So we're looking at this, and it's so we took a what would you call that, a web scraping, or you take an example and you create something with it, and we're putting it into the table. This is not unusual for stuff I've had to build on the fly in the past. It's generally a salesman or you know, somebody, account manager has seen something neat and wants to put it in the database so that he can do his numbers with it. And this is one of those such applications. You know, unfortunately, you have to translate into examples in order to get something to present. So this thing is running. Let's see. I'm going to do I would be surprised if I have anybody attend this this go around, you know. But I'm going to post this out there, and hopefully I'll be giving this again. You know, this is, so it looks like we don't have any errors. Let's go ahead and go to our table here. Let's double click on this, and this is the payola right here we got. So okay, this completes the demonstration, and thank you for coming. I'll be giving this again. My real intent is, you know, if you are into Vim, you know, is I would like to have a discussion amongst peers. I kind of live in a backward state in the United States. I live in Arkansas, and it's a rather backwater as far as technology. I think that there's a lot of countries in Asia and the Eastern Europe and stuff that have better computer. I won't say computers themselves, because obviously I'm working with a computer, but I would say the culture of computer. You know, I would very much like to interface with people who use Vim. I mean, I'm a humble person, but frankly, I've never had anybody that was better at Vim than me. You know, I'm humble, so you know, if you come on to Discord, you know, just, you know, we'll hook up, we'll talk, and you know, we'll get it together, and I want, you know, you kick my butt, you know. But anyway, thank you for attending. I'm going to conclude with the all right, so